Holy shit, this game is f***ing cool. Dark Echo is a top-down horror game produced by Rack 7 Games, a team of 2 based out in Vancouver. In it, the player is in complete darkness, and the only way to see your surroundings and find the way out is to use what's essentially echolocation. Every noise created by the player or the world in Dark Echo creates a visual representation of itself. These sound waves shoot out into the environment and then bounce back, revealing not only the layout of the rooms you're in, but also any obstacles or traps, as well as things that are out for your blood. It's a premise and set of mechanics that we've seen a few times now from other games, but still, Dark Echo manages to do some incredible and unique things. The developers have chosen to take a truly minimalistic approach to not only the visual and sound design, but also to the mechanics and the way things are explained and taught to the players. One of the developers, Jesse Ringrose, told me that when it came to deciding whether or not something would be added to the game, the team had to really look at it to make sure it wasn't adding too much. This means that if something added too much visual or audio noise, it would get cut or just not added, which actually led to a lot of ideas getting left behind. A couple of these ideas were actually pretty interesting, but the team just couldn't figure out a good way to get them to feel right or work well with the constraints that they put on themselves. Pushable walls was one idea, but when it came to explaining how they work, it simply required too much info to be displayed. Another idea was walls that kill on contact, but that couldn't be explained well without adding something else to the sound waves, which they wanted to avoid as much as possible. The use of color was kept to a minimum as well, and they tried texturing the sound waves by making them wobbly, but it just didn't fit well with the rest of the game's visual aesthetic, so they scrapped that. After all the work and dropped ideas, they ended with the final product that we have before us today. There are 3 colors that get used, and they're pretty intuitive. Red means deadly, blue means liquid that'll slow you down and make noise, yellow means you can interact with it, and white or gray is simply used to denote the environment. A couple of these get switched up later on in the game, mainly to mess with the player, and Dark Echo very frequently adds or modifies mechanics as the game progresses, sometimes even just twisting a single mechanic for a level or 2. Mechanics themselves are fairly basic. You can slap to send out sound waves from where you're standing, and you get the ability to throw rocks later on. There are moving walls, pits, and monsters of some kind. The rocks you can throw can be used to reveal the map in the same way clapping is used, or to be used to distract the monsters. To top off the gameplay side of things, the levels themselves are incredibly creative. Each one presents something fresh in terms of puzzles. Sometimes it'll be a chase sequence, others you'll have to clap to break walls, and one level even has you exploring a huge open environment. All of the mechanics feel and work incredibly well, and my only complaint is that it seems that you can run out of rocks to throw, but there's no indicator of how many rocks you have left. I understand that it's difficult to display that kind of information, especially since we don't want a HUD, but the player should be told that it's possible to run out when they first get the ability. As for notifications, a subtle little sound could be played when the player only has a few left. The alternative would be to just not let the player run out of rocks, which honestly makes more sense given that the amount you can throw before you run out is already pretty high. Now, all of that comes together to make a pretty solid game on its own, make no mistakes there. What really truly makes Dark Echo so great and interesting though is the way it guides the player's thoughts just loosely enough to allow their imagination to almost run wild. The sounds and atmospheric cues leave just enough room for the player to picture a few different kinds of environments and scenarios, and that's it. Small sections where light puddle splashes accompany the sounds of flies buzzing make it clear that you're walking through some kind of blood. Is it a corpse? Is it human? Is it just honey or something? Are they actually flies? As you progress through blue areas, you hear sounds that make it clear you're wading through some kind of liquid, and because it's blue, the player instantly associates that with being water. But is it? We don't know for sure, and given that a later level switches up the color, how can we be sure? There are so many clever tricks of sound that make this an incredibly interesting game. There's so much room for messing with the player on a psychological level, and they actually utilize it for various segments, and they manage to use the fact that you can't see whatever hostile creature exists to truly bring the horror side of things out. Despite everything being just a bunch of lines, there are segments of this game that can really cause a panic and some genuine fear in the player. I'd love to go on and on about how this game messes with the player, but I don't want to say too much because this really is a game that's best to go into blind, pun completely intended. Dark Echo is an experiment experiment in using sound and minimalistic design to create horror from the player's own mind. An experiment that I'd call a resounding success. I would love to see more of this, and you should all check it out. You can pick it up for $3 on Steam or $2 on mobile. For 80 levels of consistently high quality, that's a damn steal. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Indie Bytes. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please remember to leave a like and subscribe for more. If you have any indie games that I should check out, then please shoot them my way. You can leave a comment down below, or you can drop me a line on Twitter. My handle's @forkh, or you can shoot me an email at fork4h@gmail.com. I'll see you next time. Bye!